This vocal is dry.
Stay down.
This vocal has reverb.
Stay down.
And this vocal makes you want to hear the next line.
Stay down.
Most people don't mess up reverb for the reasons you think. They mess it up because they don't know when a vocal actually deserves it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I decide when, where, and how to use reverb on vocals and when to keep the vocal dry. So let's dive right in. Most reverbs treat vocals like noise, not melody, not music, just a complex waveform of noise that gets put into some sort of space. But most vocals are melodic instruments. Generic room reverbs, plates, chambers, they all reinforce all frequencies. You probably find yourself reaching for EQ, compression, saturation. I've even used autotune on vocal reverb returns. But this is why clarity and emotion disappear so quickly in your mix. If reverb isn't contributing musically, it's just getting in the way and causing frequency clashing, it's muddying up your mix, and it's adding unnecessary voltage to your master bus. So let's talk about decision number one. Decision number one, when I'm starting to set a vocal reverb, is this a moment or is it a statement? Is the vocal supposed to sound intimate or is it supposed to sound elevated and massive, or is it supposed to be somewhere in the middle? Right? That's what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about reverb and setting up my reverb. So I'm going to play this phrase here. This is just like a lead vocal with a background vocal kind of stacked here. And then we're going to play around with some reverb.
Stay down. Yeah. You let the bone right out the gate, and I'm coming for it all. Ready or not, stay down.
What do you hear in the vocal? And how do you feel about it right now? Is it intimate sounding? Does it need impact? Does it need to be elevated? Does it need to be more showcased and put forward? Does it need to be in the background more, right? Those are all the things that I kind of think about sonically before I even grab a reverb. So let me show you what most people would do, right? Grab a Chromaverb, this is just built into Logic, and they might just turn on, the room setting or go to a chamber or whatever, and then blend the wet and dry and set the decay time. 3.3 seconds. Sounds good. All right, 54% wet.
Stay down. Yeah. You let the bone right out the gate.
And then they'll continue on to add a bunch of dynamic EQ afterwards, because then it's going to hit compressors and it's going to hit limiters and it's going to hit all these things down the chain. So then they're going to have to go and tweak this EQ within this reverb and all that good stuff, right? And it's just going to be a damn mess. Let's be real. So instead of doing that, I think this needs some room around it. It needs some space, but it doesn't need to be drenched. Right? So I play around with early reflections, and in Temperance Pro, we can do some other cool stuff like picking the scale and having certain notes kind of come out a little bit more, which is really, really beautiful and awesome about this plugin. So this is an F sharp minor. So let's just pick the F sharp minor key, and the temper, as we bring this up, it's going to ring those notes out. And as we bring it down, it's going to have less of those notes and frequencies within the reverb. But the key thing here that I'm going to work on is the decay and then the early reflections, okay? So you have a pre-delay right here, and this pre-delay is the key to it all, all right? Short pre-delay that's gonna give you some sort of separation from the immediate vocal that you're hearing in your face, which I still want because this is an immediate vocal, but it needs to be elevated. It's not an intimate vocal. So I do want the space to come behind the vocal, but I still want the in-your-face kind of vocal sound, okay? So I'm kind of wanting both. And the way we achieve that is through pre-delay and short reverb tails, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this pre-delay up to about 24 milliseconds or so to start. And then we're gonna mess around with that. And we'll set the mix, I don't know, maybe 42% is good for now. And then we're going to ring out some notes in that vocal as well.
Stay down. Yeah. You let the bone right out the gate, and I'm coming for it all.
Now this is where we want to tweak some settings without having to EQ a bunch of stuff. Just go to the bright room up here and let's set it to like a chamber, something a little bit darker, right? So maybe we'll want to do like a spring reverb in this kind of style would be really dope.
Stay down. Yeah. And I'm coming for it all.
That pre-delay is everything, right? We want that kind of like motion of, hey, we hear the immediate vocal, it's in your face, it's impactful, but it's also elevated and it's got space around it. And then of course you can ring out those notes as well. Now compare it to the stock chroma verb.
Stay down. You let the bone right out the gate. Stay down. You let the bone right out the gate. And I'm coming for it all. Ready or not.
Big difference. One reverb, the chroma verb, stock reverb, any sort of just basic ass reverb is going to just kind of blur the lines and make the vocal not as important, right? This reverb, what we're doing with the Temperance Pro here, we are making the vocal the PowerPoint. It is the anchor. It is everything. You're hearing the vocal, you're hearing the melody, you're hearing the impact, the distortion in your face kind of vibe, but then you're getting a sense of space behind it, which is going to give you a ton of depth and width and a bunch of life and impact and elevate everything. But you're not going to hear it as much, you're going to feel it. It's going to be a thing that's going to happen psychologically to you and your listener that goes like, oh, this is gritty, this is grimy. That vocalist in this song, man, it's just intense, right? The other one just washes it out and it goes, it just kind of all blends together and it sounds two-dimensional and kind of flat. Skews everything. But now let's get into decision number 2. Decision number 2. Does the vocal need support or does it need attention? Or does it need both? Let's talk about it with reverb. We got these background vocals. We got the vocalese, the ooh, 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 right? And these are really cool. That's what we call it, by the way. It's called vocalese. Anytime you make kind of a sound, an chant, hey, oh, ooh, that's like vocalese in music production. Just little something to add to your vocabulary, right? So here's the background vocals, and I'll play them, and then I'm going to solo them out in the phrase here. And then we're going to add Temperance Pro, and I'll show you how to either support or give attention to those background vocals.
Stay down.
All right, first things first, you can easily get background vocals, vocalese to have more attention by using EQ, right? Compression. You can use things, all sorts of tools, but that's for a different video. And if you automatically were like, man, I'm going to leave a comment. I'm going to drop a comment about using EQ. What a dumbass, use saturation. I get it. All right. But we're talking about reverb and how reverb plays its role. And the cool thing is about Temperance Pro is that we do get a bunch of harmonics out of this plugin by using the temper control, which means we can get all the harmonics of the scale of F sharp minor. Now, if you want to choose your scale, you just go down here and you can go to the root note, boop, and then you can go to the scale. And I have it on natural minor. But if you wanted F sharp major, go boop, and it'll pick that. Cool thing about that is if you do produce music and you're making a song right now and you're like, oh man, but I need to take it, down or up to G. We need to go up to G minor. Okay, we'll just go boop, and now you've transposed it up, right? So this is really cool. Transpose up and down. Very easy to just test all the different scales. And a godsend, like truly. But now we're in F sharp minor, and there are a couple of features and functions I want to think about when it comes to either bringing attention to this vocal more and spotlighting it, or kind of just supporting it, in the background. So if I wanted to just support it and I wanted to kind of tuck it into the mix and not have it be heard as much, not spotlit, I would take up the pre-delay. I would take down the temper on the notes that are outside of the scale. And then now you can pick all the notes that are outside of the scale of F sharp minor, and then you can detemper them. Why? Because now those notes that are rubbing, that would be rubbing with the melody of your vocal, are not going to be emphasized in the reverb. All right. So that's going to help the vocals kind of just like sit back in the mix. And just so you can hear this, let's take it up and down on the detemper with the background vocals soloed. Right, so that's a really cool way to just kind of like make sure that those notes aren't ringing out in your reverb that are rubbing in the scale. So let's temper them up and hear what that does now. Because if we're going to go back to our scale of F sharp minor, we'll go boop, 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 and just to make sure that resets basically. Now we can kind of like hear what that's doing. Ugh, right? Sounds terrible when you detemper the notes that are in the scale, because then it's like the only thing you're hearing are the notes ringing out that are rubbing in the scale. So it's like, oh, that sounds out of tune. It sounds funky, right? So that's why I showed you to do that. But if I wanted to tuck this vocal back, I'm going to set my pre-delay. I'm going to give myself a really, really short decay. So just so you know, this decay time is multiplier here, and your decay time is in the reverb settings, right? So for example, let's go to large studio 2, and you can see 1.87 seconds, right? If I go to decay and I bring it down, 1.09 seconds. If I multiply it, we can go up, right? So that's all it's doing. It's scaling. So what I want to do is I want to take something like a smooth plate. Smooth plate is always good on a vocal. I don't know anybody that doesn't like a plate on a vocal. So at this point, we can option click the decay, and we got a 2.03 second smooth plate. I think a great decay time for a vocal at this BPM, which we're at 101 right now. And then what we'll do is we'll start to mix this up and down, and I'm going to start to set my pre-delay. See how that's like supporting the vocal? We're getting the harmony around it, the harmonics. Now, obviously, I don't want it to be mixed up that high, but now I'm going to just set my pre-delay so it starts to tuck back. And now I'm going to use my filter, and I'm going to get rid of some of the boominess in that vocal return, that reverb return. So I think like coming up to about 250 to 300 is a good kind of starting point. And let's bring that up as well. That's great. So this is going to be a way of just kind of tucking it back, but supporting it, because now we have notes that are happening within the reverb, and we'll just kind of like set that up the way we want it. And then we'll set the mix how we like it. Okay. And let's pop it in the mix. Great. Now let's before and after, right? So here is before. Kind of sounds flat now, right? It's like, it's kind of boring. And here's after with Temperance. Right, and that's a 1.6 decay time. So if you wanted it to ring out a little bit longer, then you can bring that decay up, of course, and scale it up. And the decision I'm trying to make here, just so we're being really, really clear, is do I want to just support this, or do I want to call attention to it? Do I want to bring your ear to it? And with this kind of idea, the background vocals, I usually want them to be kind of in the background, right? I want a lot of depth and dimension out of a big vocalese kind of chant, ooh, or whatever. And honestly, I would even layer this with a synth. So I would have something kind of playing the wow, 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 maybe even a guitar, right? Doubling that. So this is a way of kind of like going, okay, I'm going to support this vocal more and let it take up more space and let it feel bigger in the chorus. So here's before both the Temperance plugins. Stay down. You let the bone right out the gate. Stay down. You let the bone right out the gate. And I'm coming for it all. Ready or not, stay down. You let the bone right out the gate. Woo! When you hit those high notes, though, it really starts to sing. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like, whoa, what's happening? It just becomes a whole new thing. And it's such a fun tool to use. And just hopefully you guys are getting some out of this video. I really want you to understand how I think about reverb and the decisions I'm making when I'm setting my reverbs. And if you like it, hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed, you know what I'm saying? And I'll leave a link, by the way, to Temperance Pro in the description so you guys can grab this. There's also a light version of this that's really good as well. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles, right? But yeah, let's move on to the last decision I have, and one of the most important decisions that I constantly think about as I'm setting up a reverb for vocals. Are you ready for that? Let's go. Decision number 3. Should the vocal move or should it stay still? And how should you feel when you hear this vocal? That's what we're going to dive into now with programming reverb and really any effects. So let's jump right in and listen to this vocal phrase with some stack.
In awe of you again, your line put the salt on my skin.
All right, so completely bone dry right now. Obviously, it was cut with some compression, EQ, just going directly through the Apollo interface with decent mic, you know, nothing crazy here. But what we have here is a lead vocal, and I want to think about this part moving because this is where we're going into the chorus. And it's sort of like the pre-chorus coming into it, you know, da-da-da-da-da, you know, we want to have that big moment. And this does call for other production in the vocals. As far as I'm concerned, I want the vocals to move. So I'm going to focus first of all on the lead vocal here. And let's listen to this just kind of soloed out and hear what it's doing.
In awe of you again.
The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to focus mainly on the late, the RT60 time, like we talked about before, the decay time of the actual reverb. And then I'm going to seriously filter out just the middle.
In awe of you again.
Now, you might have noticed something, like it's starting to grow as it goes. Also, I think about the actual reverb program, right? This is the sizzling synthetic, right? And you can go in here, you can kind of see the different things, special effects. And I want this to be a special effect moment because it is a pre-chorus going into a chorus, and I want it to open up and I want it to move. And the big part about movement is we can automate any parameter, and I highly recommend you do automation on different parts for your arrangement. So like if you're going from a verse to a pre-chorus to a chorus to a bridge, etc., you can use effects to make transitional moments happen. And I think that's really highly effective. So what I'm doing here is if I go into Logic here, I can hit A for my automation lane, and the Temperance mix is coming up just on this last one, on this last phrase here. Let's hear this as it's working, and then it comes back down on the second phrase.
In awe of you again, your line put the salt on my skin.
And that's how we can get movement happening with the vocal and the reverb effects, by actually automating it up, letting it blossom into this beautiful reverb that's going to have some harmonic structure to it, which also supports the vocal itself, and make sure you're in the right key. In this instance, I'm also only really accentuating the G sharp and the C sharp. So I'm going to land on that C sharp again, right? It's like a bended note, but we're hitting that C sharp there. And I want to accentuate that in the reverb. And I also want to accentuate the G sharp because it's very musical. I think it's a perfect fifth or a fourth or something like that. You know, I'm not super technical on music theory, but if any of you are, let me know, right? Perfect fourth, perfect fifth, something like that. So I think it's the fifth. So what we're doing here is we're making this really musical thing happen, and we're blossoming it up with the mix. The size is at 113%, and you can see I'm 2 times the decay, so I'm at 6 seconds on decay. So it's like growing and blossoming, and we're only focusing on the late reflections. So the RT60 time, the tail, the decay of the reverb. So that's one thing. Another thing is the density. Okay. So the density here is, you could think of this as like diffusion. These wooden diffusers behind me. And you've seen these maybe in a lot of studios where they're slat diffusers. This is a quadratic diffuser. So it's a 2D diffuser. It diffuses this way and that way, and it scatters up and down. A slat diffuser would only scatter 1D, right? It's only going to go one way. So it can go left to right or go up to down, depending on where the slats are. So how you turn them. But this is going to be a 2D diffuser. So what this is doing is it's diffusing the sound. It's going shh, and it's making a reverb happen. And the density you could think of is like a room that's very diffuse. And as you bring that down, you get more into like a kitchen, right? You get this reflection, this hard reflection. So what I try to do is give myself a little bit of that reflection, because I like that in a reverb and in a reverb return, because sometimes it can sound like a room and a reflection. Your ear can like locate the sound better. Okay. If you just go density 100%, it's just going to sound like a sha. You're in outer space, man. So I want this to feel a little bit more real. And this is how I'm thinking as I'm thinking about how I want things to move with my vocal. Okay. You could even automate this density. So you're like in a bathroom, you know, with like a really hard reflection, and then automate it all the way up and it goes, you know, and you fly off into outer space. I think that would be cool too, you know, but I'm going to keep it right here around 55% or so. And that is really the whole parameter for this, okay? So then we're gonna go to the low vocal. And on the low vocal, I'm gonna turn on Temperance Pro. And I've set all this up because this would take me forever to do on camera, and you guys would just be like bored out of your minds, right? So on this low one, I'm really gonna go more for like an early reflection, put some depth into the low vocal. And you'll hear why when I play the low vocal here.
In awe of you again.
Right, it's like more like a sassy, not so in tune kind of vocal. But you can see I'm getting these kind of resonant frequencies and these harmonics happening. The note width is a little bit more pinned out, and I'm getting more of a pre-delay off of the 24 milliseconds. And the density I have even lower, so I get even more of that kind of splashy sound. And then again, I'm just focusing on the mid-range, right? So here's before and after on this.
In awe of you again. In awe of you again. In awe of you again. In awe of you again.
All right, so that's just tucking it into the space, and now it can feel more gelled into the group of vocals, okay? So let's move on. That's really like a very simple one, you know, the low one. And then we have a Vox wide double, and this is where I think even more movement needs to happen. So I have the Temperance followed by the H3000, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. And this is actually really cool. It's really fun. So on this one, I'm like, do I even need temper? Do I need this to be ringing out? Do I need any of these harmonic notes singing in this reverb? No. Because this is going to be a harmonic, like this is already harmonic. It's a harmony. So as I'm thinking about movement, I'm also thinking about what's already helping this vocal move. Well, this is a harmony. So do I need to like accentuate harmonics in this? Not really. So I'm not doing that. So on this, just a little bit of pre-delay. I'm focusing the target on all. So it's going to be early and late. And then the density is at 100%. And the note width is at 60%. No temper, like no notes are signified. Just a nice smooth plate at 2.95 seconds with, you know, I got the decay up by 1.2. Now here's the big thing here to help this move a little bit more, but not, you know, add more harmonics. This is just going to add a little bit of left right. And what this is a bright stereo Voc. So it's actually, this is going to be like a left right kind of delay going on. And I'll bring this mix up really heavy so you can hear what it's doing.
In awe of you again. In awe of you again. Your love is so on my skin.
So as you can hear, this one's pretty deep in the mix, but it's also like giving me some left and right with that bouncing kind of ping pong delay thing going on. And this is a great way to add some movement, right? So now we have these three together, and then I'll play the last one, which is the real high harmonies.
In awe of you again. Your love for the soul on my skin.
All right, sounds kind of bare, sounds not so good, right? Like, but now we want the high harmonies to come in and kind of save the day. And these really do, I think, save the day. They add quite a bit of texture. Again, I don't need any temper here. So you can see there's no notes being tempered. I'm not adding any sort of note to the note already, the fundamental. So this is just a high harmony, and you can check out the stuff I got going on here. The biggest thing to focus on here is that I'm only targeting the early reflections, and I'm really trying to stay up in the top here. So up to 9.3K and then down to 193. So I could probably even bring this up a little bit more to not focus so much on the body at all, because we already have lower vocals. We got the lead vocal, etc. And these are really high. So let's solo these out so you can really hear this. Let's first of all play it without the temperance.
In awe of you again. In awe of you again. Your love for the soul on my skin.
Really, really subtle, but very tasteful, right? And this is, again, just to give it some gel. But listen, I'm going to bring up the mix so you can really hear how this is just the early reflections, really just honing in on it, giving it a little bit more depth. So if you wanted to tuck these high harmonies back a little bit, you didn't want them to be so in your face on the left and right and so wide, you can start to blend the mix in.
In awe of you again. Your love for the soul on my skin.
Now, to really pinpoint this density idea, right, that hearing that early reflection so well instead of hearing this diffuse sound that has a lot of density to it, I'm going to play this with the mix up pretty high, like 63%, and we'll mess with this density. Check out what happens.
In awe of you again. In awe of you again. In awe of you again.
And you really hear it in the tail there. Right? It's like, just kind of sings out. Or it kind of has like a little bit of a slap and it goes away quicker, right? It dissipates quicker.
In awe of you again.
And I love that because now we can allow the movement to happen on the lead vocal that has the automation. You know, you don't want everything shooting into this huge reverb with different reverb times and all this stuff going on. You want to figure out what's the most important element and where's the emotion at, right? And I think the emotion is in the lead vocal. So that's what I'm trying to pinpoint. And everything else is just supporting it. So that's what we're trying to do. And the reverbs in these cases are really just acting as gel and glue and giving the dimension and the space that this vocal needs. So now all of these together, and I'll bypass in and out what we've done with the temperance and the reverbs here. So here are these all just soloed, and then I'll play it in the mix as well.
In awe of you again. You lie for the soul on my skin. In awe of you again. You lie for the soul on my skin. In awe of you again. You lie for the soul on my skin.
And this is just another decision that you have to make with your vocal reverb and effects. Do you want this thing moving or do you want it to be stagnant? And where's the emotion lie? So what are you trying to pinpoint and spotlight the emotion on? For me, it's the lead vocal. Everything else is just going to be supporting it. But this is also kind of a group vocal thing, so they all kind of need to be working together. Now, just to finish off this video, I want to give you one last decision that you should be making with everything you do when you think about adding reverb, delays, and wettening up and sweetening all your vocals. And I think it's a very, very important question to ask. So let's ask the question. That final decision you have to make is, does the vocal need reverb? Does it call for reverb? Does it care about reverb? Or does it need to be dry and not have any reverb at all? So that's a big question. And sometimes I think the right answer is keep the vocal dry, take the reverb off. And I want to show you an instance of that where I can take the reverb off of the lead vocal, but still have it on maybe the doubles or the harmony stacks. Check this out. I'm going to play it first of all with the vocal reverb on both. So I have a lead vocal here with Temperance Pro, and we're just focusing on the early, and then the Vox doubles with the early as well, just kind of blended in. And this is with reverb. I'm going to leave both of these on right now.
I don't mind your summer rain keeping me up. She don't need me to rush to make good love.
Now for me, that just is kind of like washed out, right? And you could think, oh, well, let's take the reverb down, you know, all that. But let's just turn it off and let's hear what it sounds like.
I don't mind your summer rain keeping me up. She don't need me to rush to make good love.
I mean, to me, it's better without the reverb, right? So sometimes you have to make that decision and you have to go, hey, I don't need to touch this sound, right? Like it's compressed, it's in your face, it's emotional, it's intimate, exactly as it needs to be. There are other elements in the mix that have reverb and dimension, and I actually want the vocal to be right in your face. And I want it to be whispering in your ear. And that is a decision you have to make as a producer, vocal producer, etc. But I do think that the vocal doubles love what Temperance is doing on this. So let's just solo out these vocal doubles so you can hear the kind of space and dimension that this is giving them.
I don't mind your summer rain keeping me up. She don't need me to rush to make good love. And when I'm ready to drown, she'll keep pulling me out.
Right, so that's a decision you got to make, and it's up to you and the song. Let the song be your guide. Let the vocalist be your guide. But hopefully through this video, you've learned a lot about making decisions on where to add reverb, why, how, you know, what's the purpose? Like, what are you thinking when you throw a reverb on? Are you just thinking, I'm just going to drench this in reverb? You might take the focus off of what the song is about. You might kill the intimacy of the vocal. You might be drowning your vocal in reverb that has no sort of support. It doesn't have that harmonic structure that this Temperance Pro is giving, or maybe you're just overdoing it on the RT60 time, the decay time, and you just need some early reflections to give you some space and dimension. Hopefully you got something out of the video, and if you did, please drop some love in the comments, hit the like button, and I'll leave a link in the description to all the plugins I used in this video. And I hope you guys like videos like this. If you want more of them, just drop some suggestions in the comments. All right, and I'll see you next time. Peace.